Ladies, welcome to another episode of the Revitalized Womanhood podcast. I am joined today with the lovely Terilyn Anderson, and she is, I'm sure, thrilled to be taking part in this podcast episode. Hi, welcome. I promise this is going to be the easiest, and you're going to want to do more podcasts after this. You're going to be an expert after this. You're going to say, I'm seasoned. I can do so many of these. So I didn't get to meet you when you were down here at the market, but I met your daughter. You were out having a wonderful time with the grandkids, the babies. But she told me a little bit about, anybody who's watching on YouTube, I actually have some of your branding here so you can see how beautiful and why it drew me in, because this is totally on brand for me. The look of your branding is just really stunning and simple and clean. And this smell, so I got this is the room spray, and it's the cream and cardamom. It is so yummy. I need to get more things. But anyway, your daughter had told me a little bit about your story, and I was just inspired. I had to have you on the podcast because if you aren't aware, Revitalized Womanhood is all about family-centric women who are family-oriented, right? In whatever way that is, to kind of redefine their purpose as more than a mom, a wife, whatever they do for a career, but their purpose as a woman, right? And I think that just screams volumes for you and how you've lived your life. So would you please introduce yourself to my audience?
Sure. My name is Terilyn Anderson. I am 56 years old. I have 4 beautiful daughters, 3 son-in-laws, and a daughter-in-law. And I am a grandmother to 6 beautiful grandkids that are my world. And I love dogs, I love animals, I love everything. But being a mom, honestly, was like my purpose in life. But then when you're a grandmother, it's just, I shouldn't say this, but my grandkids call me May May. I wanted to be something different. So if I refer myself to May May, because that's my whole world, and that's my like golden ticket, is to be a May May. But I was married pretty young. I started really young. I married my best friend, high school sweetheart, when I was 19. Had my first baby when I was 20. Had another one 15 months later, and had another one 22 months later. And then 7 years after that, had my little caboose, who everybody thinks she was the mistake, but she was actually the only one planned. But yeah, my life was a whirlwind at first, and we were young and poor, but honestly, those were some of the best days of my life.
You're up in northern Utah, so
yeah, I just recently moved here, though.
Where from?
Riverton.
Okay.
I grew up in Sandy, but raised our kids in Riverton, Harriman area. I've just barely made this move up here 3 months ago, but loving it.
Loving it. And was it to be closer to kiddos, grandkids?
I have 2 kids up here, and then most of my grandkids are down in Salt Lake, but the craziness of Salt Lake, I just found a little piece I'm on an 1.5 acres. No, my backyard is a reservoir. I wish I could show you, but the light's too bad. It's just dreamy.
I love it. It
Yeah.
sounds dreamy. That's perfect. And I know northern Utah, so I know where you are. So married at 19, baby.
Yeah.
That makes me think of my parents too, because they were married young, moved to Logan, went to Utah State. And I remember the stories of them telling us that my first 2 siblings, my first 2 sisters, their beds were basically drawers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they were college students, and they didn't have cribs, and they had room for nothing, so their cribs became drawers.
We were in this little townhouse. We gave them the master and just put, 2 bunk beds and a crib, and we were in the tinier room, but it was all good. We had each other, which was the most important part.
I feel that. We're in a little 3-bedroom here, and I've got my 2 boys in one room, and I've never wanted to use the guest room, but honestly, my husband uses the guest room. He doesn't sleep with me because I usually have a bed full of kids is what's usually happening. And it's perfect. It's tiny. It's 1,300 square feet. I joke that it's our storage unit with beds because also we're never home. We travel around the world, so we're never home. So it's like perfect for us, But you make do. You just don't need all the things. I think all the things end up becoming clutter and chaos, adding to the chaos.
More to clean, more to
clean.
Do all that kind of stuff.
So how old were you when you became an orthopedic medical assistant? Where were you in your motherhood journey for that?
I was about, about 32 years old.
32. So you were going through school while you were having babies.
Yeah, so I didn't actually go to school. I actually was hired on as a receptionist there. I had
wow.
So me and my husband were always 50-50. I worked my whole married life trying to juggle 3 kids. And so in the first part of our marriage, the first 8 to 9 years, I worked for Smith's grocery store, and I would go in at 3, work till midnight. My husband would come home from his job. We'd literally kiss and walk out the same way. And we did that for like 8 years just so I could be home with the kids during school and that kind of thing. And then I got into the medical field, and I got hired on as a receptionist at, can I say the place or?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
It's called Tosh. It's very well known. It's Orthopedic Specialty Hospital in Murray, and I was just a receptionist. I shouldn't say just a receptionist because it's a very important job, but
it's a very important and very busy job.
Yes. So I was working for 2 orthopedic surgeons at the time, and just was there and just progressed as I got further and further. I worked there for 19 years. So as I kind of went along, I kind of got to different avenues and got off the front desk and did billing, and then finally got to the back where I was the assistant and doing surgery scheduling and that kind of stuff for a very, very busy orthopedic surgeon. So
wow. You learned the ropes, and they rewarded you accordingly because you were probably the one person they trusted to do all of these things.
Yeah, it was a very, I have a lot of family, I should say, there now. A lot of very close people that I love because I literally went through a lot of things in that 20 years and saw a lot of things, babies and marriages and all those kind of things. So
yeah, it's a lifetime. 19 years is a lifetime. It really is. When we're so young and we're thinking everything, the world revolves around us when we're little, and then the world revolves around high school. I'm going through this with my 13-year-old right now because we travel so much. And we did make a decision that we'll come home when he's 15 years old to just be home, to make that commitment. And he's getting really upset right now because he's seeing this as soon as this baby's born. He's seeing this coming up that we're going to be leaving again for the next 1.5 to 2 years. And we're trying to explain to him, and it's so hard for him to understand, of course, but we're like, you're in this blip of a life right now, this teeny tiny little blip. And the people that are in it, maybe they'll stay with you throughout your lifetime, but most likely they won't. And you just have to be present and enjoy it while it's here because, like you're saying, 19 years and spending the different kinds of seasons you went through in that 19 years, those people become your family. They absolutely do. They're your family that you choose, right? That's the saying.
Well, there was a lot of days that I was with them more than I was with my own family. I mean, you drop the kids off at school, you get to work, you do your thing, you hurry and come home and fix dinner and do homework and put them to bed, and then you're back at it again. So really the time frame you only have is like this much with your family. So work people really can be your family.
Yes, absolutely. What do you believe? Because in my community, we work a lot around like 90-day goal setting and creating good habits. Like I have a thing that I love to call becoming the CEO of your own life. Like even stay-at-home moms have to be a CEO, right? They have to create schedules. They have to create meal plans. They have to create, right? You are a CEO. A good housewife knows you don't go to the grocery store 4 times a week. That's ridiculous. And now a good housewife knows you don't even go to the grocery store. You have it delivered because it's all free. And you plan your meals ahead of time and you have everything delivered. And so when you were in this busy season of your life with kiddos and working, and what were some of the habits that you had to create for yourself? You had to implement.
One of the biggest things that I really implemented, and I try to tell my girls now that their kids are getting a little older, but my kids had jobs every day. Every day. The dishes had to be done, vacuuming, take out trash. I mean, every day. And there'd be times I'd pull in, and I could hear the vacuum going, but they didn't come home to school.
Mom's home.
Yeah. But I mean, it would only take them maybe, well, it depends on how long they wanted to take it. But honestly, like emptying the dishwasher or, just rinsing out the breakfast dishes or something, or vacuuming, like they didn't have to vacuum the whole upstairs. It was just like the living room area or somewhere like where we spent most of our time. And, taking out all the garbages to the black garbage. Like it didn't take that long, but that was one thing that made our house less chaotic because I did work full time. So basically I came home to a clean house. I mean, honestly. And
how good does that feel?
Yeah. And even like my, because Kennedy, my youngest was, 7 years younger than the other 3, but she could take out the garbage to the thing, she could she could empty the dishwasher and the high things, our sisters could help. So we didn't like exclude her. Like she was in we had a schedule and they would do it like for a week and then they would switch, and that was all they're doing. They didn't want to switch it every day. Like, so, my oldest first week would do dishes and then it would rotate and they would all have a job. And so to me, like, just because your kids are little or something, like they're living there too, like implement that stuff. Like honestly, for a working mom, it's hard to get up and keep your house clean and try to figure out dinner, and then even all the after school activities of soccer and dance and all those other things that get chaotic. And then Saturdays we really didn't have chores. Like that was their the weekends was their free days.
Right.
They had to do
They're
it
fun
Monday
days
through
to be
Friday.
a family.
Yeah.
I have a 4, he's almost 4. He's not quite 4, and he unloads the dishwasher with his brother. My 10-year-old's job is to unload the dishwasher every day, and the 4-year-old does it. He loves to do it. He loves to get the ones, there's 3 drawers on the bottom that he can reach, and he knows that those are where his cups go, and that's where his silverware goes, and the Tupperware goes. And so, yeah, my kids, when they were old enough that they started showing signs of I want to help, which they all do. When they're 2, they, they're little and they want to help. I'd give them baby wipes and say, wipe baseboards. Here's the wipe baseboards, wipe fingerprints off doors, wipe fingerprints off walls, give them baby wipes. And then it's not toxic. It's not cleaning products, but it gets works. The job done, and I agree with this. I love that that's what you started with, because I have so many women in my community right now, and women friends, honestly, women I talk to. I'm so aware of so many things because I am now the magnet for women and all the things they're going through. But it's like they're wearing this almost like martyr badge of honor if they're doing all the work. And they don't want to put that on their kids. They want them to have a childhood. And I was raised with 8 kids in my family. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, 8 kids. And I'm like, what? Chores are the lifeblood of a family. Yeah. They are what gives kids purpose. It gives them a feeling of a job well done. You're creating resilience in them. And yeah, I think you can hear the moaning and groaning, but really, when all's said and done, you're the parent and you've got to prepare them for this life that's not going to care that they're moaning and groaning. They're going to want this job to get done. Yep. And I absolutely love that was a non-negotiable for your family.
Yep. It was. It really was.
Oh gosh, I can't even imagine a bunch of girls. Was it like heaven having a bunch of girls?
I mean, at some point, but at some points, no,
At
because
some point, it's not.
especially the oldest two, they're so close together that they were just like, she wore my belt, or she used my
Oh yeah.
straightener, or she, just, or they would sneak in each other's room and hurry and take off whatever they wore before the other one got home from school or whatever. That was only when it only worked when they were in separate schools, but
I played that game. Well, the secret to that is the sister that's old enough to be out of the school. So
yeah,
that's the
exactly.
sister that I didn't get along with, that we fought all the time because she was the one that I was stealing her clothes. But then she is the one I'm closest to now.
Yeah,
She is just like, we are the same. We raise our
yeah,
kids the same way. We're the
yeah,
closest now. So I think it's really funny
yeah.
that that's it. So okay, what about other habits? The chores. That is a game changer. I'm so glad you said that first.
Um, I would say we always just put our family first. Even when we were poor, like we would load everything up and go up to the cabin or go up to the canyon and like have just a picnic or even pack a tent and like I said, like I mean, and then we've gone on vacations where we go to Hawaii where we've had a little more money, but honestly, like some of those vacations were some of our best when we didn't have a lot of money. Um, they're really the only thing you have in this life. So, I mean, I would cherish every minute that you have with your family.
Yeah.
Um, and sport, like my kid, like I had two daughters that weren't really into anything, and then my two younger were into, they were big soccer players, and you kind of have to sacrifice a little bit for that too. But those are days that I would never give back either. And I have girls, but I raised very strong girls, which is good and bad. um, when they go against each other, it's not a very pretty thing. But when they stand up for each other or they stand up for the underdog, I'm kind of that way. I'm really kind of black and white. I'm not really, there's no really gray with me. Like you kind of know where you stand with me. And I'm very proud that my girls are that way. Like they'll stand up for things. And, my 20, 30-year-old Terry Lynn probably got herself in trouble a few times for opening her mouth. But, the 50-year-old Terry Lynn maybe will kind of step back and say, is that really, your battle to fight? Or do you want to do that? Or, keep your mouth shut or go get it, And so I don't, that's just things that I've kind of with girls. I just felt like I had to raise them strong and to stand up for what's right and what's wrong. And if you're going to stand up what you think is right, then you better be able to go to battle, you know? So, but
I love that so much. Be able to go to battle. I'm writing these all down because I love them. They're wonderful. Um, so let's get to when all of this started. Sparrow Candles Co. What happened? What happened when you lost your husband? How did life look then? What was going on?
um it was we as a family every year we go to Montana. That was kind of our yearly vacation. We don't do anything glamorous. We all are in our campers, and so we all had just went on our family vacation to Montana. We'd spent the week with each other, no cell phones, no cell service, just us and all the grandkids, all the dogs, everybody. We all go, and we had just got on vacation, and we had just came home, and every I had ever since my first granddaughter was born, I had taken Tuesdays off, and I watched all the grandkids on Tuesdays. And it just helped the moms because they were all working too. And it was a Tuesday. It was August 4th. It was hot. I was getting all the grandkids in their swimsuit. We were going to go out into the back to do a big slip and slide that I had bought. And um, You know, me and Dave were married for 34 years. Sorry.
It's absolutely okay.
And he was my best friend. And our marriage wasn't great all the times. There were some days that I actually, I'm sure everybody knows that. Like, you look at him, you're like, I really don't like you today. You know,
Yep.
we had our highs, we had our lows. And I got a knock on the door from 2 cops. And I'm telling you, if you ever see that, just run out the back door because it's nothing good. And they told me, they just said, do you know Raymond David Anderson? He went by David, but. And I was like, oh crap, like, what has he done? Like, did he flip? Did he, like, what the heck? And I was pissed at first, and they said that he was in an auto accident and didn't make it. And I remember my life just, it was like my reaction was like, well, did anybody else get hurt? Like, I didn't know. And at the time, the cops were like, is anybody else here with you? Because they knew I was in shock. And at the time, my daughter Kennedy was there, and she was getting married in 16 days. And she was filling out her wedding invitations. And that day was just obviously one of the worst days of my life. The night was the worst. That all my girls gathered together, my son-in-laws, even the grandbabies, they didn't really know what was going on, but my life changed for sure. I'll never.
How long ago was this?
This was 4.5 years ago.
Oh
In
my, so
2020.
recent.
So we were going through the pandemic too. We were going through all of that craziness. It was, um, and I just remember just wanting the world to stop. Just stop, like, and it didn't, and it still hasn't. And a couple months prior to that, me and my daughters had owned a different business. We had made like farmhouse, um, big signs. Like, we had a big printer, and we would print them, and we'd make our own frames, and we'd do these markets. And we had sold it just because they were getting busy in their family, and I couldn't do it all by myself. And so we had sold it. And at that, when we would do a couple markets, I like tampered with some candles every once in a while, and they would sell out like in the first day, and I never really did it. And I still work for the orthopedic surgeon full time, and my brain, I was like, I have got to do something. I am not the type that like sits down, like I'm constantly and busy. And I was like, I need to do something to keep my brain busy, or I'm gonna go in a really ugly, ugly place. And my kids need me, and my grandkids need me. So I pulled myself together, did a little research, and Dave passed away in August, and I did a market in October. And I got this vision in my head to buy a old tent trailer, and I found one on KSL for like $300. I gutted it, and if you know a tent trailer, the beds, fold out.
Right.
Well, that was my display. So I gutted the whole thing, and then so I'd put everything inside, and then I would pull them into the arenas, and that would be my display. And that's how I started Sparrow. And so in October, I did my first market and blew myself away. I didn't even know. And my son-in-law, well, all my son-in-laws, but my second daughter's son, he's a tech guy. He's like into, like, he's marketing. He does all this kind of stuff, and he's been like one of my biggest cheerleaders. And I had gone back to work, and my boss, he really, I mean, I think sometimes, and I'm not trying to dog anybody, but like sometimes men of intelligence are not street smart, I guess maybe I should say. I'm not trying to be mean.
No, that's so
But
funny you say that. My husband says that about his cousin. He's got this cousin. He's like, he's the smartest guy I know. Smartest guy. But if you left him out on the street somewhere, he'd starve to death or be murdered. He
yes,
would not be able to make it home.
yes. So, I mean, I went back to work and he said some really mean things to me, like, I
Mm,
don't know how long it's going to take before you get over it. And I'm like, it? Like, it, my best friend of 34 years.
yeah, yeah.
I'm
Your
never going to get over
husband,
it.
your partner
Yeah,
passing.
I'm never going to get over it. Or then he
No.
would say, like, if my something happened to my wife, I'd be totally fine. And I'm like, okay, like, whatever. So he kind of upset me a little bit.
Lucky lady.
Yeah. And, I 8 months after Dave had passed, my mom passed suddenly. She wasn't really sick or anything. And then 6 weeks after that, my dad passed of basically a broken heart. He couldn't
Yeah.
live without her. And then 6 weeks after that, my sister lost her husband to a brain tumor. And so within a year, so my sister lost her husband a week before my 1 year anniversary of losing Dave. Within a year, we lost like four huge, huge people in our lives, like huge people. And I
Your
had
new
kept doing
reality
these,
is loss and grief.
yeah. And so, I mean, we became two words that nobody wants to become, orphans and widows, like me and my sister. Like those are two words
Yeah.
that, and my sister's 7 years younger than me. So, just not really a club you want to be in. And I had kept doing these markets and kept working full time and tending the grandkids on Tuesday. Like I was trying to make my life, normal again, but it really wasn't. And um after my dad passed away, um I just thought, what am I doing? Like you're going to work, your your boss doesn't really appreciate you. You've been there literally 19 years. He doesn't pay you what you deserve. He says mean things to you. Like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Like, you don't know when your time card is going to be punched. Like my husband, he didn't
You
know.
guys know that
I
better than most.
yeah, like he was just going to work after a vacation with his family and he never got to come home. And it's like my sister, Dave passed in August and her husband was diagnosed in January and only lived 7 months. Like, and our situations are totally different, but they're kind of the same. Like, she got to say her goodbyes, she got to tell him her sorries and her I love yous, and I didn't get that. But I didn't have to see my husband like dwindle down to nothing or be the caregiver either. So we're both really different. But I just woke up one morning and my son-in-law was telling me, quit. Like, what are you doing? Like, look what you're doing on just this little teeny amount of time that you're spending on this business. Look at this little team. Look what you do. Like, look at, and I was scared. Like, I had 401k, I had a weekly paycheck, I had insurance, I had all those things, all those comforts, that we just get in this groove. And I woke up one morning and I'm like, screw it. I'm not doing this anymore. I am literally going to jump. And if I fall flat on my face, I can still go get a job. I bet I could go back to my same job. I was there for 20 years and maybe ask for forgiveness and get my job back. I mean, maybe I'm too confident. I don't know. But I was like, so I went in and I gave my 2 weeks and I was scared. I was scared to death. But I'm like, I'm doing this. I want more time with my family and my business. I was having doors open right and left, and I just was like, and I was to the point where I'm like, okay, like this is getting overwhelming. I work, 8 to 10 hours at the orthopedic, and then I'd come home and work 6 to 12. I would go to bed at midnight or 1, and and then all these things, and I jumped, and it was the best thing I could have ever done in my whole entire life. Like, I have more freedom. I have so much time with my kids. Not that this is a big deal because money really isn't anything, but I make more than I ever have that I working for an orthopedic surgeon for 20 years. Like, it's just, there's a lot of, he always wanted me to, I've always been kind of creative and do things, and Dave always wanted me to go do my own thing, but we just couldn't. Like, we had kids. We needed those daily paychecks. He always worked for mom and pop shops, and so I was the one that had to carry insurance.
Right.
And so we just did it. We were a team, and that's just what we did. And he always wanted to let me, spread my wings and jump. So there's a lot of him, sorry, in my business. My name's Sparrow Candle. Sparrow, he was this big, burly, handsome dude, but my daughters always teased him because my oldest was like, "You have bigger ovaries than all of us." Like, he would be the one in movies like crying, and we would have to like wait for him to like dry his tears so we could leave. And he just was this big, burly, sensitive, handsome guy, and he loved outdoors. He loved nature, but he liked birds, and sparrows were one of them. And I didn't even know about, I mean, sure, everybody hears about sparrows, but if you really do research on them, they're really cool birds. They love a community. They're hard workers. Um, they're just kind of a really cool little bird. And also, um, pirates and stuff, the legend is that they would tattoo a sparrow on their body and it would take their soul to heaven. And Dave actually had a tattoo of he loved Jack Sparrow. And so he uh he had a tattoo of a sparrow on his arm, and so that's where the name comes from. So pirates have a legend that if they tattooed a sparrow on their body, that it would take their soul to heaven. And Dave also loved Pirates of the Caribbean, and so he had Jack Sparrow's tattoo on his arm, and so that's where Sparrow comes from. And we also have like a signature scent called Sparrow 406 that not very many people know about this one, but
Oh, I'm
when
writing it
I
down. Hang on, hang on. Wow. Okay. Now I'm in the secret. What is it called? The secret menu.
yeah, the secret
Sparrow
menu.
406.
Uh-huh. So that one, when I made the candle, I had my girls smell it individually, and Dave was always the type that always smelled good. Like, he would be out mowing the lawn and come in all sweaty, but he always smelled good. Like, he didn't stink ever. And he took great pride in like that. Like, he'd spend a lot of money on, better colognes and stuff like that. And when I made the candle, I had all the girls smell it individually, and they're all like, "It smells just like Dad." And so we named it the Sparrow, but then 406 is Montana's area code because he loved
Oh,
Montana and we love Montana.
I
So
love
that
that.
one is very close to my heart. And I love when, like, it's masculine, like it's got coral and moss and like it's earthy, but like people are like, "Oh, that smells like a handsome man or a big dude," or I've even had like a dad, it almost brought me to tears, but at one of my markets I had a cute dad and he had three little girls and he smelled this and he's like, "What does this smell like?" And they're all like, "You." And so like those
Oh,
things just, yeah, it just like,
when the universe does those kind of things, it just really
I
gets you.
I
Oh,
know. So I know he's with me. I know that he's opened a lot of doors, whether you believe in an afterlife or not. Like, I know that, and I remember one of my really good family work friends, coming like the second day, to see me, and we were standing in our back, and all of a sudden a white feather kind of flew down and like landed right at my feet, and she like gasped and she's like, "Do you know what this means?" And I was like, "No, like, what does that mean?" And she's like, "Whenever you see a white feather, it means that there's angels near you." And so I've grasped onto that, and there's been many hard things in my life, like since he's passed. Like, I had to go buy a new car and I was so scared, and I had walked to get the insurance card for the guy, and by the time I had gotten to the truck there, I had like a handful of white feathers, and I was like, it was in the middle of winter too, and at that point I'm like looking around for like the dead bird somewhere, and it was just, to me it was like me, like him just saying it's gonna be okay, like it's okay. My grandkids, when they see him, they call him Papa Feathers, and so we have a jar of Papa Feathers, and so and now my business is 4 years old now, and um, I've evolved. I've gotten a new display, and I have doors open. Like I just am very grateful for the life I live, and even though I had to go through hard, like I'm grateful. It's made me stronger, and I hope my second half of my life will be full of joy. And I really, since he's been gone, like I take, I mean, we have his stuff here. Like his truck, I have his truck, and it takes me to all my markets, and I feel like it's like his chariot, like taking me to places. And, I have his things, but the things that we grasp onto most are his memories. And so I am big on memories now. Like the grandkids for Christmas, I give them a day with Maymay, is what it's called. And we just have a day together. And it just started out as like I gave them little gift cards, and we would go to Target together. Or, like it doesn't have to be like anything extravagant. Like I took all the boys to the Harlem Globetrotters, but to me, when I'm not here, I hope those are things that they remember, are the memories with me. Like they don't care. Like ask them what I gave them for Christmas as a toy last year. Like they don't know. But you ask them the day with Maymay, and they remember.
Yeah.
And so I guess another thing, like I want to tell, just, I know it's hard, especially when you're younger family, or like you don't have money, or money's tight, or whatever. I don't really care what your situation is. Like just make memories. Like even if it's like when we were poor, and we literally would just pack up our car and throw a cooler in it and go spend the night in the canyons. Like my kids remember those things. Like
Yeah.
um pull them out of school and take them to lunch, like shock them, like, hey, let's go to Chick-fil-A, or wake them up in the middle of the night and go get a shake at Dairy Queen. Like I'm just saying, little things like that, like those are important in life. Like we feel like we get so busy in social media and like just our life, when we really just need to focus on our little circle and what's around us, because that's what's most important. We don't
Right.
know if we're going to be here tomorrow. I don't know if I'm going to be here tomorrow, you know, but do my kids and my grandkids know that I love them, and that, we did have these great days together. And I hope some of the things that I'm doing now, will live on even in their kids and their kids.
Yeah,
Like
that's your legacy.
I have a big gumball jar here at my house, and I hope the grandkids remember that she always had gum, always had a gumball, because they're like, Maybe, can I have a gumball? And I'm like, yeah, make sure you put 2 or 3 in your pocket, for later, whatever. And I'm sure their moms hate it, but I don't care. I'm the Maymay, and I do what,
Yeah.
That's me. But
Yes,
so
I
I
have a
guess,
mother-in-law like that that's got the candy jar. We left Diet Coke cans on Rick's grandpa's casket, But every single person, all the grandkids went up and put a Diet Coke on his casket. I mean, there's so many things to this, and I really think that there is such a juxtaposition to what a blessing it is for the people. Obviously, it's not. It's horrifying. It's a horrifying gift, but it is a blessing for the people who have lived through this, who have had to survive a loss like this, or even the people who have been presented with the possibility of a loss like this, right? Because they now have this true deeper connection to one life. We have one life.
Yeah.
There's almost this team A and team B. Team A has never experienced any kind of grief or loss like that, unimaginable, right? And team B has, or they've come close. And they have this ability to see things so much more clearly than other people. And it is a horrible team to be part of.
Yep.
But in the same way, it's a beautiful team to be part of, because you get this unimaginable perspective shift, right?
Sure.
Because you definitely nailed it when you said it doesn't, even if we're young and poor or whatever, I actually just recorded my podcast episode talking about how this studio is now going to be a tiny nursery again in my bedroom with me. And it's the last time I'm ever going to do that. So I'm being very, very mindful about, as I'm dusting, as I'm taking books down and putting stuffed animals up, this is the last time that I'm going to do that, you know? Yeah. And so for any of it, for life, but slow down and be present. Yeah. If you can do that, if you can slow down and be mindful of the fact that it doesn't matter if the laundry's done. It really doesn't. It doesn't matter if people see your house cluttered, full of toys. It doesn't matter. None of those things matter, but we put so much pressure on ourselves because of this. Our conversation in our community last night was comparison is the thief of joy, because whether you're comparing yourself to millions of other people around the world, or even comparing yourself to the woman you used to be, right? Well, I just had a baby, but I used to fit in these jeans, or I used to have the energy to do this, or gosh, I just had a C-section. I used to be able to sit up in bed by myself. Like, why can I not do that? Oh, well, duh. You know, it's, we all fall into this trap, and it's so sad that if we could just, what do you think the biggest trick is to being able to switch your mind, switch your perspective into that present mindful state of this is not going to last forever, so be in it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess just keep reminding yourself, because like, to me, this kind of stuff happens to other people. It would never happen to me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I always thought I was going to grow old with him. Like I said, he was my high school sweetheart. I was married at 19, and so I guess, I mean, until you come close to those things, it's hard to put that in perspective. But if you could hear us that have, like, don't take the little things for granted. Like, it's okay. Like you said, like, when my grandkids are here, my house is a freaking bomb, and I don't care. I don't care when they leave, or, you know, if they sleep over, we just clean up at night, and it's okay. Like, let them be kids, let them do whatever. Like, I feel like as parents, and I was the same way, you know, it's just like, you're always so eager to say, no, don't do that, or, oh my gosh, like, don't, like, you're gonna, you know, your gross hands are gonna touch the fridge that I just cleaned. You're gonna mess those one day. You will mess those little fingerprints, and it's okay. Like, it's okay. Everything can be cleaned up. Like, just enjoy the moment. Put your freaking phone down. Like, honestly, it drives me nuts to go places and like the parents are on their phone and their little kids are trying to show them something or whatever. You're gonna miss that. And our phones,
Yeah.
I mean, I raised my kids without, I mean, we didn't have cell phones until, I mean, I'm not that old, but
Yeah, it was my generation. It was so
yeah.
your girls, we
Yeah,
all grew up
your girls are
having to
probably,
run to the payphone and
yeah,
call home or collect. We used to call collect and hurry and get the
yeah,
message in before we
yeah, yeah,
we had a baby, it's a boy.
yeah. So, I mean, I don't, it's just, it's even like when Dave passed, like, I just wanted the world to stop. I just wanted it to stop.
Yeah.
And the world is so busy these days. And I remember, like, you know, even days, weeks, months after, like, I'd go into the grocery store and I'd literally look in people's eyes and I would be like, wonder if they're sad like me. I wonder if they just had someone die. Like, honestly, and even a world that is so chaotic and sometimes evil, there is a lot of good. I was shown so much good and so much love. And that's one of my things is I try to give back. Like people I didn't even know, came to help or came to, Dave worked in sales and I got a few phone calls on his phone and they were like, "Hey, we're just wondering if you could help us out." Or Dave was like this at his funeral, we ended like, "Be like Dave." Like if you have that inkling to call someone or text someone, just do it because he did. Like he's your neighbor that literally would bring you Krispy Kreme donuts, warm ones, just show up at your door and say, "Hey, here you go. I was thinking about you." Or he had an elderly father figure that he would bring him a case of Diet Coke and just make sure he's okay. Like I feel like we all get so busy
Yeah.
and we forget to do those things. He didn't. He never did. And so
Yeah,
I
we
guess,
forget what the human experience is actually supposed to be about.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Like, but like if you have like something pop in your head, like, oh, I should call my mom today, or I should text grandma, or I should, check on that neighbor. Like, don't push it aside. Just do it. Like, it only takes a few minutes, and you don't
Yeah.
know. And it's just one of those things that I think we all as a world just need to slow down and look
Yeah.
what's around you. Like look what's around you. You don't know. And honestly, like be more kind. You don't if the guy pulled out in front of you or like honked at you or something, like what if he just lost his wife? Like you don't know. You
Yeah.
don't know. So just be kind.
It's interesting that you said that about the grocery store because I had my mother-in-law on here when I very first started this community in this podcast. She was one of the very first people, my mom and her, they were the first ones I wanted to interview. I'm being mentored and coached and like, okay, well, you're going to want to reach out to these successful, quote unquote, successful, famous, you're going to want to reach out to these people. These are who you want to have on your podcast. This is going to, because it helps your reach. It helps your SEO. It helps your blah, blah, blah. Your son-in-law knows exactly the words I'm saying. I
Yeah.
had no idea. And it's like, I'm going to ask my mom. Like I'm going to ask like my mom who raised 8 children, who helped raise her 5 siblings when her mom had cancer on a farm, sewing their own clothes and raising their own food. And, these are the women that I want to talk to. And of course, yes, there are women who are successful in the eyes of business, the business world and whatever. And I want to talk to them as well because they are also women and they share in the commonality of all of us like-minded wise. But so I had my mother-in-law on here and she lost her high school sweetheart as well. They were 27 years old when he passed away and they had 2 little kids and my husband. She was pregnant, 7 months pregnant with my husband.
Wow.
And she said almost verbatim what you said is she used to look at people and think, why aren't you sad like me? Don't you realize the devastation that's just happened? That I've lost this man. Why aren't you sad like me? And so for those moments and even any other moment in your life that was hard, like the moment when you had to decide to just quit your job, your security, your safety net, those moments when the other side looked impossible. What was your mantra? How did you get yourself to push past that barrier?
I guess I'm kind of a risk taker anyway. Like I've always kind of just wanted to just like get out there and try. Like I'm not afraid to do things. Um, but it was scary. It was really scary. But I had to do it for me mentally and for my family and for my kids. Like I wasn't happy where I was and I didn't want to live the rest of my life, or even the next, like I said, like we don't know when our time card is. Like, wanted to do it for me. And honestly, for my kids and my girls, like, you can do this. And I'm here to say, like, if you have like even any little thing that you feel like you want to do or you're good at, like, be your own boss. It's the best thing in the whole world. It honestly is. You make your own time, you can do whatever, you make your own schedule. If something screws up, you have to answer to yourself. But I, I've talked to a few people, and I guess that's just my biggest thing. Like, don't be afraid. Like, you only have one shot in this life. And like I said, I'm sad that I had to wait till I'm not sad, but I mean, I'm 56. I started this business when I was 52.
Two.
And I'm like, do it while you're young. Like, do it now. Even if you have to work full time and like do like something, like, just do it. Take a chance. If you fall on your face, believe me, my candles sucked at first. I had some trial and error. I had tunneling. I had fragrance issues. Like, like I'm very passionate with it being a clean product. Like, I want all clean ingredients and no toxins and all those kind of things. And so I had a ton of trial and error, and I did fall on my face a few times, and I did have, customers mad, but you have to like brush yourself off and get up. Like, if it's something you're gonna, like, I've always drilled this into my kids' head. Like, if you're gonna commit to something, like, commit to it. Like, you can't do anything half, I don't know if I can swear on here, but
Half-assed.
yeah, half-assed. Don't do anything half-assed.
Shits and dams aren't swears for us.
Okay, good. So I just am like, I guess I'm a stubborn person too, so I'm like, I'm not gonna fail at this. Like, I'm gonna do this. Like, I'm gonna
Right.
show this orthopedic surgeon, like, give him the middle finger and say, sorry, you know what? You had me for 20 years, but I'm not wasting 20 more, and I'm doing
Right.
this on my own. And the funny thing is he had to hire two people to replace me. Ha ha ha, a little side note. So,
You were worth two people.
I was worth two people, but I'm just patting myself on the back. But like I
Yeah.
said, I just don't, we're always so afraid of, like, well, what if I don't succeed? Or what if they judge me? Or what if my candles do suck? Like, you don't know. Just try it. You can always just stand up and brush off and try something else or do something else. It's funny, I had a little side note, but I had bought this little, because up here in Cache Valley, we get a lot more snow and I'm on a lot more acreage. And so I had to go find me a little side by side. And so I bought this from this cute family, and this lady had this little neighbor girl, and the little neighbor girl was doing this entrepreneur little market, and she was selling sourdough bread and
Cute.
stuff.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh, well, we need some. So I bought some, and I looked the little girl in the eye and I said, listen, I said, you're only 12 or whatever, but be your own boss. Like, put that in your head. Don't work for anybody else. Like, be your own boss. It's the greatest thing. So find your little niche, find whatever you want, but try to be your own boss. And I got a message on Instagram probably 2 months later from the husband, and he's like, my wife took that to heart. And she actually, because she was the one helping the little girl do all the sourdough and stuff.
Yeah.
Now she has her own Instagram. She does all these little markets. I'm super close with her. Like, this is her little gig that she does. And so it's like another thing. It's like, if you have that inkling to talk to somebody or tell somebody, like, don't hold those things back. Because I
Yeah.
was talking to this little girl, but really,
You
that sweet
changed
neighbor
her
that was
mom's
helping
life.
her. Yeah, it puts a seed in her head. And being my own boss is hard. There's some days I'm working 16-hour days, like, and it's physical and it's hard, but it's okay. It's all mine. Like,
Right.
it's all mine. Like, so I guess there's still hard things, and there's still times that I cry, and there's still times that I wish my husband was here and to talk over those kind of things, but he's here. He's with me.
You can still
And-
talk to him.
For sure. And I do.
Yeah. And you've got 4 beautiful pieces of him still with you, and 6 more pieces of him now with you that are here to help you, that he's made sure you were here with, not be alone. So I thank you so much for joining me. Exactly what you said, and exactly about planting that seed. You never know who it's going to inspire. You never know who it's going to affect, is the whole purpose of my podcast. It is sharing our stories, being brave enough sometimes to share our stories, because sometimes we look at them as something that we don't want to share. And if you can get past that, who can you help? Who can you make feel not alone and not struggling, not suffering? Maybe you can make it so that their grieving period is shorter this time, or whatever it is. So I really appreciate you coming on here, and we're going to put all of your links in the show notes, and it's on, let's see, I've got your card right here. On Instagram, it's Sparrow Candle Co _.
Yep.
And then on Facebook, it's Sparrow Candle Co, or just email you at sparrowcandleco@gmail.com, right?
Yep.
And I love it. I think that's so incredible. And you've got so many more things than candles. This just says hand-poured candles, but you've got so many more things than that. I was like, oh gosh, where do I even begin? And I had my little 3-year-old there with me, of course, with your grandkids. Your grandkids had the dinosaur balloons, right? The balloons.
Yep.
We got one of those last year. So how did I miss your stand? Because I was getting the dinosaur balloon. That's why I missed yours last time.
Yeah.
But I'm so glad I found it this time. And thank you so much for taking one more leap out of your comfort zone and doing this podcast with me. And I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.